I want to take you on a little tour of a recent trip we made to a Hudson's Dirt Cheap store. I really didn't want to have to voice over narrate this video, but they had copyrighted music basically blaring over their speaker system. So I'm not going to talk throughout the whole video, but I'll tell you a little about Hudson's. Hudson's is basically a salvage store. They get their merchandise from stores that had maybe a fire or a flood. They buy overstock, customer returns, things like that. And they operate a couple different models of store. They have their treasure hunt stores, which contain primarily brand new merchandise. They have their dirt cheap stores and their Hudson salvage stores, which have basically more customer returns than new merchandise. But every store that I've been in has had at least some new merchandise. It's just the treasure hunt stores is pretty much all new merchandise. I know we had 3 Sam's Clubs in our area, and apparently Sam's thought that was too many for this area, so they closed one of the stores, and a lot of the Sam's Club merchandise ended up in this particular Hudson's. As a matter of fact, over the last probably 3 months for sure, they've been having not as much now in the last couple trips, but they've been having a good bit of Sam's Club merchandise. Probably the best way I could describe Hudson's is if Walmart and Goodwill had a baby, they would name the baby Hudson. And that's because it's just such a mixture of types of merchandise, and you never really know what you're going to find. Over the years, we've shopped at a lot of different Hudson stores in Louisiana, Mississippi. I don't think I've ever been to any in Alabama, but that's the primary markets where they operate. There may even be a couple in Florida, I'm not sure. But we found everything from outboard motors, mattresses. I've actually bought mattresses from Hudson's. They were Serta mattresses. They were about 2/3 of the retail price. I found high-end wool rugs there. Rugs that run, $5,000 to $8,000. Now they didn't cost that there. That was just the retail price of them. Appliances, furniture, tons of household items, electronics, clothes, shoes. They generally have a lot of clothes at most of the stores that I've been to, and you can find some really good deals on clothes. You just have to be willing to put in the time and search through them. Just recently, my wife bought several pairs of jeans for I think about $8 a pair, and she said these same jeans retailed for $40 a piece at whatever store it was that carried them. The treasure hunt store in Mississippi, in Gulfport, recently they had a shipment of shoes that came in, and what they did was they cordoned off probably 1/8 of the store, and it's a pretty big store, so they made a pretty big area with only one entrance in and out, and they turned it into like a mini shoe store. And you know, when you go to Hudson's, you never know what kind of shoes you're going to find. It could be brand name, it could be off brand, you just don't know. But this particular Hudson's, they had got a huge shipment of Nike shoes. They also, I seen some Under Armour, there were some Skechers, there were some other brands that I don't remember, and there were also a bunch of women's shoes, which I don't really have any idea what brand names of women's shoes are, but my wife spent probably 45 minutes looking through those. But they had just a ton of Nikes, I mean thousands of pairs, and they were selling them between $25 and $40 a pair. It just depended on which shoe it was. Some of them were 25, some were 30, some were 35, and some were 40. Just depending on the style, I guess. And if you know anything about Nikes, you know that that's a killer deal. I ended up getting one pair. I'm not really a Nike fan. I'm much more of a New Balance fan. But it was such a good deal on these Nikes that I just couldn't pass them up. And there were so many people. I mean, I can't even describe how many people were in this area looking through shoes and buying shoes. It was crazy. But there were so many people in this area. That's why they put one way in and one way out. And they actually you had to pay for the shoes in this area. And they had 2 security guards that they hired to stand at that entrance/exit. They also had another security guard that was walking around in the shoe area. Plus they had several employees there. They had another security guard they put at the door. It was actually, they were so worried about someone stealing shoes, and I can kind of understand that because of the amount of people that was in there. It was extremely hard to monitor the people, but they would not let the women bring in their purses unless they were a certain size. And the guard outside, she had a representative person said, if your bag is bigger than this, you have to leave it in the vehicle. And you know, people were just having to go put it back in their vehicle, and it was kind of making some people mad because obviously not everybody going in there is going in to steal shoes, but it was just their policy for the time being while they had this big shoe thing going on. But I can understand from their point of view with the amount of people going in there and trying on shoes and looking at shoes and just being there, there was going to be some theft, and they were doing everything they could to try to stop that from happening. So I can't really blame them. One thing, like I said earlier, that you'll find not at the treasure hunt store, but at the Hudson's dirt cheap stores and the Hudson's salvage stores, is a lot of the customer returns. And you know, I've bought a fair amount of customer returns from there over the years. So you have to watch out and of what you're buying and inspect it, because some things, you know, earlier in the video there was a crock pot there with a dent in it. Well, the crock pot may work just fine. If you can live with the dent, you might save 40, 50, 60% off the retail price. But what they actually have is a testing area for electronic items, because they have, I think on electronics they have a pretty strict return policy of no returns on electronics, and I think there are some items where they may give you like 7 days, but I'm pretty sure electronics have a no return policy. So they have an area where you can go set up, plug in your electronic item, and make sure it works before you buy it and have any problems. And there's been plenty of times that I've went and checked things that I really wanted and they didn't work. And if it's something that I can easily fix, that's one thing. But if it's a kitchen appliance or something, you know, those are really not user serviceable, so I end up not getting it. There was something a while back, I was trying to remember what it was. It was I don't remember, but it was a really good deal, and we brought it up to the testing table and it didn't work, so I was kind of disappointed, but you know, that's just part of the game. I bought let's see, what did I buy from there like that. I know I bought a fryer, like a fried, I think it was a Fry Daddy, or if it wasn't Fry Daddy, it was one of equivalence. It may have not been that name. It may have been a Presto, but I assume it was a customer return. But all the pieces were there. It had obviously not been used, and you know, there's nothing wrong with it, and it works just fine. I've seen people they have a small electronics department, and I've seen people in there buying certain things that I wouldn't buy, you know, if it's something that's been used, like some electric razors. Well, if you see an electric razor and you can kind of tell it's been used, and you see some whiskers on the blades, you know, that's something that I would stay away from. But they also have new electronics in there also. Lots of times there's things like PlayStation games or Xbox games, and they're all sealed and new in the package. It just depends on which kind of store you're going to and what their inventory is at that time. I had bought an electronic safe probably a year and a half ago, and I'm sure it was a customer return. I don't remember seeing a sticker on the box, because a lot of the boxes will have stickers that says customer return, or it has certain instructions that the store is supposed to, that the store that it was brought back to, or that store is supposed to process it a certain way, and they'll have that stuff on the stickers. So I don't remember if it had that on there or not, but the box was in not the best of shape, but there was absolutely nothing wrong with the safe. You know, since it was electronic, it had the keypad, it had the keys with it, and there were no issues with it. You just have to watch and see what it is and make sure that it's not damaged, or if it is damaged, it's just something, you know, cosmetic, where it's not going to affect the functionality of it. I've also seen a lot of as seen on TV products on here, and I suspect that these Beauty and the Beast pet food bowls were that also, because sometimes you'll be walking down an aisle and you'll see just a huge amount of white, nondescript white boxes that may not even have a label on them. They may just have an item number, or there may be brown boxes with just an item number, and you don't know what's in it. And most of the time people have already opened one or two of them up to see what it is, and it'll turn out to be some as seen on TV items. And those, I've seen returns, I've seen new ones. So like I said, it just depends on which store you go to and when you go there and what their inventory is at the time. You do have to be pretty aware of prices, because a lot of times Hudsons will mark something up just above retail, and then they'll give you their percentage off discount. So there's certainly good bargains that you can find. You just have to know what prices are pretty well, so you don't end up paying, you know, if it's a $50 item, there's no reason to pay $47 for it here, you know, if it's potentially missing a piece or something like that. But you just have to know what things cost, and you can always look them up online. Well, look, I'm going to go ahead and wrap this video up. Thanks for watching. If you've got a Hudson's in your area, go check it out. You might be surprised at what you can find.